Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and call us to order, 7:03. And if you would all unmute yourselves, please, so we can say the pledge. Gotta unmute yourselves. I don't do it by myself. We do it together. That's okay if you can't unmute. That's okay. All right, so I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America,
and to the republic
for
which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, and
justice for all.
Thank you all. So the April meeting minutes have been sent out. Christine, does anyone have any questions about those minutes? Anything need to be changed about that meeting? Is there a motion on the floor to accept those minutes? Risha said yes. And is there a second?
Second.
Carl seconded. And all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Right, those minutes have been accepted. Is Carol with us yet? Okay, there, I see you, Carol. Sorry, I didn't see you on there. Carol, go ahead with your conversation on contributions.
You're on mute, Carol.
There we go.
If you aren't talking, go ahead and put yourself on mute.
Okay. We just always solicit donations, contributions. It doesn't cost anything to belong to the party, but if you are so moved, it is $15 for students, individuals under age 55, $30, individuals over 55, $25, and families $45. And you can donate on our website.
All right.
And just a piece of information, I paid the insurance without the cyber and without the crime things that they were trying to sell us.
Oh yeah, do we need to talk about that real quick?
I'm sorry?
Did we need to talk about that, or did you say you already?
No, I mean, the executive board basically agreed that we didn't need that, so I just paid the basic policy.
Yes, thank you for keeping up with that. Are we all set to go with the bricks?
No,
Still waiting on Kendall to give us the Korean.
I haven't heard from Kendall or Kanan.
Do me a favor, if you are not speaking, please put yourself on mute.
So we have only a few days left. If anybody has the Korean or the Hindi, please send it to me.
Okay, we do have the Hindi. You didn't get the Hindi, so I'll send you the Hindi.
I haven't seen it.
We have the Hindi. I'll send you the Hindi.
Okay.
But I know Kendall said he was working on the Korean, so but I'll get you the Hindi over to you. Tess, welcome. That's fine. Thank you for joining us. I don't think I read all of it. Yeah, there we go. All right, so without further ado, so it just happened to work out that everything is kind of heating up right now as far as the school board goes. We have actually been trying to get Ms. Pugero on our schedule for a few months now. So we are so glad that she was able to join us tonight. So I would like to, without further ado, go ahead and introduce Dania Pugero, who is the diversity specialist for Forsyth County Schools, so that she can talk to us for a minute.
Thank you for having me this evening. And yes, things have been heating up, but I am happy to be here to talk with you, to tell you a little bit about what I've been doing since I've joined Forsyth County Schools. I joined in December. So really, you can say that this semester that we're wrapping up has been my full term, that I started in January and took off running. So in January, when I started, a lot of the teacher recruitment is what Forsyth County Schools had on their agenda to work on. So I participated in that and partnered with Human Resources and was able to get them to do, for the first time, participate in the HBCU job fair. HBCU, for anyone who doesn't know what it is Historically Black College and Universities job fair. So we were able to do that in January. We had our Forsyth County job fair in February, and I had a booth there, and it was really interesting. It was really nice because we had a lot of people who came to my booth asking questions. Of course, this was virtual because of COVID, but we had a lot of inquiries, a lot of people who were interested in knowing what Forsyth's doing in terms of diversity, equity, and inclusion, and were interested in candidates. I had people who told me that they lived actually in Forsyth County, with who educators with great credentials, and in all honest, were honest with me and told me that when they saw me up, when they saw my picture on the website, they decided that maybe I'll take a chance and apply with Forsyth County Schools. That was very telling, and I thought, oh wow, well, please, we always want good candidates of all diverse backgrounds. So it's very interesting. So like I said, when I started, we started off with the recruitment. We're going to continue with recruitment in terms of making sure that we're intentional and looking for people with all diverse backgrounds. When I say that, I'm talking about people who also know how to work with not just different ethnic groups or have different language skills, but just folks who know how to basically embrace the diversity that we have in our student body. And so whether it's talking about abilities, disabilities, different gender, have familiarity with gender identities, but we want people that basically can work with all of our students. We want our students to feel safe when they come in our buildings, to be seen, and to feel that included. And so one of the things I will say about the recruitment and also retention is that we have a new director of student services. Her name is Dr. Kimberly Bennett, and she has come on board with us, and she's been on board for a month now. So if you all want to, look her up, but she comes with a lot of experience, great credentials. She's 26 years of education experience, worked in a neighboring county. Just like I came from a neighboring county. I guess I didn't tell you much about myself, but she's with us, so I think that's great. And I guess I didn't tell you about myself. I just kind of went right into what I've been working on, but I have 20 years experience of education. I started my career in Rhode Island, Providence, Rhode Island. I moved to Georgia in 2005, and I've been working since 2005, working with Hall County Schools next door. So made the transition to Forsyth County. When I saw this position, I felt like this is definitely a calling for me. I've always been advocating for all students and making sure that everyone feels included. I myself my ethnicity is I'm from the Dominican Republic and migrated to this country when I was a year old with my family. So I am bilingual. I speak Spanish in addition to English. And I've always just had an interest in working with different people of different background. It's not something that I'm afraid of. It's something that I embrace. And so when I saw the position, I thought that I should apply. And here I am. And I'm actually really excited about the things that we're doing. I know that there's been a lot of talk lately, but I feel like we are heading in the right direction. I'm also happy that we have a board that has embraced this, and it is moving forward with the diversity, equity, inclusion plan. And we also have a superintendent that is as well. So in addition to partnering with HR, I've also been, professional development has been another part of my position. And the professional development that we have been offering has been for our staff, Forsyth County staff. So we had a diversity 101 the first semester. I wasn't here for that. But we had a diversity 101 that focused on the Forsyth County history. So folks had a chance to learn about Forsyth County history, the things that happened in 1912, 1987, the marches, and not just that, but also learning about other things that happened in Forsyth in terms of the expansion of Lake Lanier and that kind of thing. Obviously, if we don't know where we're at in the history about where we're from, then we really don't, how do we move forward to make it better? So that was interesting. I read the feedback that a lot of people didn't realize some of the things that had happened in Forsyth County, so they appreciated those lessons. I was here for Diversity 201, which was the second semester. We focused more on equity, bias, implicit bias, defining those things, checking ourselves, looking at ourselves and how we may be able, how we might engage in those things without realizing it, but just really learning those things so we just don't act out on implicit bias and be more intentional about including students and everyone in our buildings in terms of our colleagues, as well as our families and parents and everyone. So we've done that. I've worked with teaching and learning and the different content specialists. I've worked with the social studies content specialists. We're building some courses that we're going to be offering on a high school level. We have a women's studies course that we're going to be offering. We have a Black studies course. These courses, of course, are going to be electives. We've also have an 8th grade Georgia studies course that all students take. We've been basically adding local history to that, resources and videos, so our students can learn about the local history, just as our teachers, were able to get that lesson as well. We have also been more intentional about the different ethnic heritage months. Since I've been here, I've just been sharing resources with the schools on the different ethnic months that I've been here, and doing social media spotlights, also educational materials that I've shared with the schools in case they want to infuse that in their school. And if there's an opportunity to teach on that or have displays in their schools. We've also I've been working and supporting with the schools in terms of their student engagement piece. Some of our schools have student-led programs and also teacher-sponsored programs where students come together and have like multicultural conversations. So like, for instance, we have a Black student union at some of our, well, 2 of our high schools. And I've been going there and supporting them and just helping facilitate conversation. Again, this is student-based, student-led, just there more to support them and help facilitate conversation. And it has been great. The students I'm so impressed with our students. This is the one thing that continues to keep me motivated and wanting to do this work is the students. When I'm able to work with them and I can hear them and I see how much they're just so very self-aware, they are intelligent. This is why Forsyth County does have a good reputation. I can tell because the students that I haven't come in contact with, they're just amazing. And I'm very hopeful because, like I said, they're very just self-aware and they want to make a difference. I don't know if many of you were at the last week, saw students speaking at our board meeting. And so that is just very impressive. I think I was so impressed with the students that spoke. So there's a lot of things that I've been working on since I've been here. I've also been looking at data and looking at how we can make things more equitable for all our students. I'm continuing to look at data, and that's really complex and a lot of information. I mean, if you have specific questions, I can answer you, but there's a lot of things that I have been listening and learning myself to learn about how I can better serve Forsyth County students and Forsyth County, the community as a whole, and obviously listening to the concerns of all the different groups, making sure that we don't leave anyone out. And that is what I've been doing for the past 6 months, you can say. It's been a lot.
Sorry, I was muted.
Yeah.
So we do have we have a question in the chat. If you have any questions.
Let me look up. Let me open.
Yeah, I can read it for you if you want. And then, so Laura was asking, what is the likelihood that Forsyth County schools will make bias training mandatory? And that her understanding is that it's optional. And she thanks you for the work that you're doing.
Well, thank you so much. Yeah, so that is a really good question. It is optional. I am hoping myself that we can make it more mandatory. Our schools have a lot of autonomy, and there are a lot of different professional development that's being offered at the schools. The principals, focus exactly on what's happened, what their schools need. So that's a good question. I think that I'm going to have to come back to you with an answer because right now I don't have an answer for that in terms of the likelihood of it being mandated. The good thing is that I will tell you this. I look at the stats of. Oh, I'm sorry.
I don't know how that happened.
I don't know.
No, I'm sorry. I cut you off.
I don't know. Well, so anyhow, the first semester when I looked to see how many people actually took the course. So we have about 5,000 employees with Forsyth County Schools. And there was more than half of the people took the course. I do know that. We had about 3,800 people who completed the course at the end of, it was a 10-week course. At the end of the 10 weeks, that's how many people completed it. Now, there was an opportunity for people who were not able to do it when it was rolled out to be able to come and get the course via email. From that, we probably got another 500 people who requested to take the course after the fact. Even the second semester in January, when we were rolling out the second course, was more towards the end of February. We still had people in the month of January and February who didn't have an opportunity to do it before to catch up. So we're still working on finalizing all of the numbers because we gave people an opportunity. We're not going to stop. We're not going to not give people an opportunity to do it if they want to. We also want to make sure that our new hires do it as well. So this is something that's going to be offered to people as they come in, and people who didn't have a chance to do it before, they certainly have an opportunity to do it. Or people who want to refresh or want to do it over, we've had those too. You can do it again as well. Let's see.
All right. We have another question for you. It says, thank you for your work, and how do you think the staff is receiving it?
Thank you. Thank you for your support. The staff, I've gotten good feedback and response. I've been able to work with teachers on building the courses. Again, those folks are excited, and they're great. How staff is receiving it might be, to be honest with you, maybe it's a mixture. There are people who don't know why we're having this. They don't feel like this is a priority. Now, I want to give people the benefit of the doubt. I mean, this is comments that I read, and this is a COVID year, so it was a difficult year. And I think the timing for some people, I think, was not good because there was already stress with the hybrid and virtual teaching, all of that. But this is something that can't be put on pause. I mean, we have to, no matter what's happening in the world, we have to continue on with this. We just have to. So it's a mixture. I think there's a lot more people who are actually, just based on the people that, the feedback that I've gotten from the evaluations, there's a lot of people who support this and want more and want us to continue on this track.
That's great to hear. So Chris is asking, can parents find out whether their school is doing that training for the staff?
That's a good question. Like I said, the information that I have, the data does not break it down in terms of telling me what schools participated. It just tells me the amount of the people who logged in, registered, completed the course in every single lesson. So I don't have very specific, because we did tell people this is anonymous. We wanted people to know that this is not, we wanted people to participate. So I can't, that's a good question. The answer is I don't have that information. I don't have that data. I just can tell you like just the broad numbers, but not the breakdown in terms of school. The principals don't even have that because it was, we encouraged everyone to take it. So they don't even know exactly who on their staff did it.
All right. So Dion said to tell you the brave work you were doing is well appreciated, and keep fighting with the 100 emoji. So I didn't realize it was employee by employee, Chris says. Would you advise parents to encourage their school administration to make it mandatory for their school?
Well, I mean, I think, that is definitely something that you can talk with your administrator about, your child's school administrator about. The principals do have, I think, the autonomy to make it mandatory, since they have autonomies to run their schools the way that they feel it's the best. So that is really, I guess that's up to you. I want to see it mandatory. I want people to take it. I encourage people to please take it. It's highly encouraged. But I also want to respect the fact that Forsyth County Schools does have that piece of autonomy, and, so I want to respect
what works
that.
for their school, right? Until we pull them,
Yeah, it needs to work
progress.
for all the schools though, right? Like it needs to work for everybody. Our student body is 48% non-white. So it's here, and these students should be respected like everybody else.
Absolutely. We have Laura who followed up with, thank you, good info. Please, because schools have a lot of autonomy, does it make sense to bring this up at local county school meetings and ask admins at each school? So it was kind of to the same.
Sure, I think that's a good question. I think that's a very good question.
All right. So there were many who had technology issues the first round. so people were missing emails or texts. It was much better the second round. So I guess that's just some feedback for you.
That's good. I'm happy to hear that. That is a big, that was a big issue with technology, that people were missing that. But there was an option. There was an option that you can get the lessons via email if you were having problems getting it via, text message. And I think that people caught on to the second time around, because we had a lot of people ask us to send it via email. But I'm just glad people got it.
I'm glad to hear that a good number of teachers, are reaching out and being proactive about making sure that they get that information. So that's a good sign, I think.
Yeah.
Eric asked a really good question, and what I was going to ask too.
Okay.
For those who aren't familiar, can you give an example of what the training entails?
So what the training entails is 10 sessions in their lessons, and each session you get so maybe one lesson is about implicit bias. So you get a definition of what implicit bias is. You're going to get, so there's a literature that you read. There might be a video attached to it, or there might be a vignette that you read, like, a situation. And then there's an opportunity in every single lesson, you have to respond. So it's not just information that you get, it's interactive, you have to respond to it. It's not live, and it is via text message, but you do get to respond and reply, and you have to think about certain scenarios and situations. So that's kind of how the lessons are. They're only supposed to take 20 minutes of people's time. Now, we did add another piece to the lesson, which was not mandatory, but highly recommended. There was a piece where you can get your people together at the school level and build and expand on the lesson. So there was an opportunity for people to come together, talk about what they read, the videos that they saw, what the question they had to respond to, and actually have live dialogue. The feedback that I've gotten from that is the people who actually engaged in that said that was very helpful. And that's where a lot of the growth happened, because people were talking about their own experience at their school or just with themselves, and things that they didn't realize that they might have been doing, but because of the lesson, they realized. So that was something that I feel was very good for the folks who were able to do that. And so that's what is entailed. Is there any other, do y'all get that, or?
Well, so we have a couple more questions. Can DEI be covered? I'm sorry, I'm speaking to a couple of our executive board members. We're just trying to make sure we monitor who's coming in. So can DEI be covered across the county on professional development days? And that was actually my experience when I worked in the school system. There would be once a month where everybody came into the library after school, and they would kind of go over everything. So I was actually really surprised to hear there was kind of this text message interactive individual training. So kind of just what that looks like.
Yeah, so there's a couple of reasons why it happened via text message. Because of COVID, this was a year when we first started in August. I think everyone was just a little hesitant whether or not coming back to school was a safe thing, in terms of, not all educators, for some, and I get that, because I was one of those people, wasn't sure what that was going to, really be like. And then I think that as people were there and just got in the swing of things, everyone felt more comfortable. Now, because of that, all the social distancing that was put in place, the safety measures because of COVID, there wasn't a lot of gathering. There actually wasn't any. So a lot of like the meetings that were happening in prior school years just weren't happening this school year. It was like towards the end of the second semester when people were getting vaccinated and feeling more comfortable gathering together in groups. So that's one of the reasons, just for safety reasons. The other thing is that not everyone in Forsyth County schools has an email. For instance, some bus drivers, some of the classified folks, I'll say, may not have access to email. So we wanted to make it accessible to everyone. And that was one of the reasons. Now, yes, I do agree with face-to-face. And now that it sounds like we're going to be moving back to quote unquote, what's more normal school year next year, there's going to be opportunities for that. In fact, I'm going to be doing some training next month in a couple of weeks for our administrators. And that's going to be face-to-face. They have their principal retreat. It's a two-day retreat. And I have sessions that I'm going to be doing. And all the principals will have an opportunity to sit in my sessions. So that is going to be happening. So I guess we're going to be starting now with the principals, you can say, because they're actually going to have a live retreat. So when the teachers come back in July, I've already have on my calendar days where I'm going to go to certain schools and I'm going to be doing some more sessions live. So it looks like we're going to be headed in that direction. So hopefully that's going to be the norm for us, because that's what I want. The feedback that I got for the people who did branch out and come together. Sorry, my neighbor's like doing his lawn now and can hear it.
You can't hear it if
there's
that
a-
helps.
So people did say that that was very helpful when they got together and were having those discussions. So I'm looking forward to that. So hopefully the answer is yes. If it's safe to do so, then we're going to be doing that. We're already booking like I said, I'm already putting it on my calendar. So the answer is yes. Hopefully.
Awesome. I'm glad to hear that. And thank you for explaining all of that. Will a visit to the King Center be added to the 8th grade Georgia curriculum?
That's a good question. It's not at the 8th grade, it's not in the 8th grade curriculum, because the 8th grade Georgia, that's actually good. A lot of the Forsyth County, what we did was we added a lot of the local Forsyth County history. So I mean, that I can, I think that is a possibility. It's not added right now. I know for the Black Studies course, that is something that can be done. But yeah. And there's a lot that had to be added, because we weren't taking anything away from the Georgia studies. We were just expanding and adding. So we were enriching it with Forsyth County history. So I think it's just a matter of whether or not that can happen in terms of logistics. Does it fit? Where can it happen, et cetera? Because that means it'd be all the kids in Forsyth County schools, because they all have to take the Georgia studies course in 8th grade. So that means they would all be going to the King Center, which is great. I mean, I don't have an issue with that, but logistically, that's a whole different thing.
Right.
Yeah,
we live in the cradle of civil rights, so we should definitely be making a visit to where all of these things happened, and definitely be talking about what happened in Forsyth County in schools. So I actually grew up in Charleston, South Carolina, and throughout school we were taught the history of what really happened, and I think that kids in Forsyth County deserve the same thing. So I'm really glad we're headed in that direction. Does anybody else have any other questions for Danya? Is there anything that we can do to continue to support DEI programs and make sure that we cut through the noise of people who are lying about what DEI is for and what DEI, the outcome and the goals actually are?
Yeah, I think that, by inviting me like you did, or just, I might not be able to come to all your meetings, but, I think just staying that line of communication open. And then if you have any questions or concerns, just to ask me directly so I can explain it to you. There is a lot of misinformation out there. So I'm hoping that as the groups who do understand what it is that we're trying to do, really, when you look at our DEI plan, it's really trying to create a community of belonging where everyone, the diversity is already here, like I tell people. It's a matter of now, it's up to us as educators. We can't ignore that diversity. We have to make sure that we're equitable with our instruction, with everything that we offer our students, and that we're inclusive. We can't just cater to one population. We have to cater to everyone who is part of Forsyth County schools. And all of our students need to feel safe. And so really, the foundation is just a sense of belonging and making sure that everyone is part of Forsyth, right? We all, we all say, Forsyth County, and this is our home, we want to make sure that everyone feels like that. And our, curriculum needs to be reflective of that as well. I'm not saying take away from anything that we've been doing. I think we can add, so we can look at things. I forgot to mention, like, one of the things is we have an awesome media center specialist, and she was able to create a way where all our media specialists in our schools can kind of do this audit of our books to look what kind of books do we have in our, in our schools. Is it reflective of the students that we're serving? If not, that's okay. We're not going to judge anyone, but there's an opportunity there to say, okay, this is what we're missing. Let's add these books, right? So that's what it's about. It's just a matter of saying, how are we being inclusive and equitable and making sure that all of our students stay engaged, feel great about coming to our buildings, want to learn, and we offer everything to keep them interested to learn. And also for students, definitely want them to see themselves, but there's an opportunity for other students to be able to learn about other people as well. Because that's a more accurate reflection of the world that we're living in. It's just a much more diverse world. So it's good for people to learn, because when you go out to the workplace, that's the reality. You're going to be interacting with people that are different from you. So when we talk about, we want to graduate citizens that are ready for the workforce, there's no question we are graduating some smart kids. I'm telling you. The kids that I talk to, they're just awesome. And I'm very impressed. So we want them, we want them to be well-rounded. We want them to be able to engage with all different type of people, and and that's great. I mean, they're already living in a place where it's wonderful and it's diverse. So why not?
Wonderful. Have you been challenged with alternative local history?
Been challenged with alternative what? I'm sorry.
Alternative local history, that was the question. Have you been challenged with alternative local history? So have you had to deal with people who won't accept history as it is because it may not portray their ancestors in the best light? Doesn't change the fact that it's, factual.
Yeah, I mean, that has happened. That's one of the things that, we've had to, I get a lot of inquiries from emails, phone calls from people that oppose DEI and everything that we're doing. And even the local history, I've gotten people, people have asked, why do we need to learn that? Why do our students need to learn that? That's divisive, getting them to learn that. That's making them feel, I guess, guilty. But really learning the history is just to make sure we don't repeat it. And we, I don't know if people know this or not, but some law schools around the country actually teach the marches that happened in 1987, because there was a case that came out of that made it to the Supreme Court. And so there are people already around the country that are learning about our history. Why shouldn't we know about it? I think that you ought to know the history of where you live, because you don't want to then learn in college and just be kind of like, learn it that way and be like, well, I lived there my entire life and didn't know this.
Right.
I think people, should have the right to know.
Absolutely. How does the DEI plan address individual incidents of racism in schools, or does it? Is there a district-wide policy for reporting, documenting, and dealing with incidents of racism? And how does it fall into each individual school unless it's escalated?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And yes, it does. And so we have a portal on our website. I have to tell you, that's not an area that I have to dive more into. I've had conversations with our safety, because it's under our safety department. They right now are the ones who deal with it. I'm not directly involved. Like when there is a case that is reported, they investigate it. They go through a process. So there is a procedure, and the safety department is the one who handles it. I like to be more involved in that in that process. I've been talking with them about how can we streamline this so we can so I can be more involved. So that is an area that I'm hoping before next school year we can really get it straight.
I agree. So another question I have, you mentioned books. So can you name any of the books that were added into the libraries? And also Blood of the Root, is that available in high school?
No, so Blood of the Root is not available in high school. I know that has come up for discussion. So right now they're in the, okay, so books that are being purchased, there's a process for that, for adding books and purchasing them and all of that. So I can't give you the list of what's been added because I don't know either. That hasn't been finalized, but it's gonna, they're gonna have it before the school year begins. So I guess the next time I talk with you, maybe I can share that with you. But I do know that Blood of the Root has come up. And that one is one that is still like in debate as to whether or not it's going to be offered. There is a lot of concerns, and we get a lot of people who object to the book and don't want it to be offered in the schools. So if you want it to be offered, we need to hear from you. Because we hear, I hear a lot from people telling me what they don't want and they want me to go away, but I don't hear a whole lot from people who want more of us, and want more of what we're doing. So if there's one thing that you can do, make your voice be heard.
I agree. Thank you very much. I'm glad you said there was a process too, because my next question was, how do we buy books for the high schools? As far as, the Forsyth County Democrats. Because that would be the next step.
We'll take your money, but there's definitely a process.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. I was like, well, if the county doesn't want to spend funds on it, we can definitely crowdsource that and make sure that we staff. That would be,
there's definitely a process for that. Yeah.
Danya, who should we contact? It's you and who else? Is it the Board of Education? Is it Brearden? Is it the principal? When we are expressing our concerns and what we would like to see, who should we include in those conversations?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that it's good. Like if you contact the board and you want to CC me, you can always contact me, but ultimately, the board is the one that's going to be making decisions, what's going to happen in the school district. And obviously, you know, the board, like you saw the board meeting last week, they listened to everyone. So you definitely have to, if there's something, you contact me, but you can, you know, contact them. Jennifer Caracciolo is my direct supervisor. She's the director of communications and community engagement. And that's kind of like the folks that you can contact when it comes to DEI. Mhm.
All right, we have a great question from Emma. Emma is one of the youth that spoke last week. How would you combat community concerns about indoctrination? That seems to be the misinformation buzz around the school's current goals. And she thanks you for your work.
Oh, thank you, Emma, and thank you for speaking up. So tell me the question again.
Oh, I'm sorry. So she's asking how to combat community concerns about indoctrination, and that it seems to be the misinformation buzz around the school's current goals. So she is looking for any kind of advice as far as that goes. And we know politically, especially over the last few years, that misinformation has really been the name of the game.
Yeah, it has.
So she's just wondering what you thought about that.
Yeah, that's a great question, Emma, right? That's a great question. So one of the things that I've been doing, I can share with you what I've been doing, and it might be what you want to do as well. But I've been trying to get to learn the community, I guess, community organizations or leaders. I've been talking with like faith community if they want to talk with me and let them know what I'm doing, because I think that the more people have the correct information, that can hopefully help combat the misinformation, because there's a lot of different community, there's different pockets of community and people belong to different places. So just like by me talking with you all, or if I talk to the Chamber of Commerce, or if I talk to, you know, whoever it is out there, whatever community groups want to talk with me, I am happy to talk with them and share with them what it is that Forsyth County Schools is trying to achieve with this DEI, that this is really about a sense of belonging. We want to be held accountable, making sure that we're equitable in terms of what we do with everything, what we offer our students. We want to be inclusive. You know, we want to be obviously aware of where we are and the diversity that's here. So this isn't, you know, the more that I talk to different groups and let them know what's going on and that they ask me questions, that's the best way to share the information. Now, I share information with people. Our superintendent wrote, I think this past Sunday, it came out in the newspaper, he wrote an editorial piece about what we're doing. Some people don't want to hear it. Like, some people don't want that. They really believe that it's something completely other than what we're doing.
And some people benefit from telling people that it is the wrong thing. So
yeah, and so that's kind of what I've been doing, is just going out talking with all the folks that want to talk with me. I'm happy to talk with them. We share what we have to share. Nothing is, I mean, we're not indoctrinating. We're not doing anything that we should not be doing. We have to follow the Georgia standards. And so I tell people that all the time. We have to follow the Georgia standards. We can't just come in here and teach whatever we want.
absolutely. Do a lot of the parents that you talk to know what Georgia standards are? Do a lot of the parents you talk to, were they ever involved in their children's schooling before, or did this issue all of a sudden make them remember that they have children in the school system and they are taught by people they don't know?
That's a really good question. So, I mean, I can only say I since January that I've been talking with people, all the folks that I get to meet are new to me. So I don't know. I do know that a lot of people, this has been a heavy topic as DEI because of the things that they have been hearing wherever they get their information from. So they've been getting, involved now that I'm aware of. But yeah, I think it's been surprising because I've heard from teachers and administrators that they've been surprised to hear from certain people that really have been okay with every single thing, but now DEI for some reason has scared them. So that's been also something new that has happened.
And I'm glad you called it scared, because that's where it is. That's what it's based in, is fear of, the unknown and what that means for their place in society. If we're shifting
Some of
more
it is fear,
diverse.
right? Not all of it is fear. Some of it comes from another place.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
And does anybody have any other questions while we have her on here? We waited to get her in a meeting for like 6 months now. So get your questions out. I know it seems like the timing, is just kind of convenient. It just worked out that way, but we've been really trying to get you here for a while. We've been talking about it for a minute. So,
Yeah.
Does anybody else have any question? It is manipulation. Laura.
And I appreciate hearing all the different perspectives because I want to make sure I see myself as a servant. So I'm serving our students. I want to serve our families, our parents, the school district that I work for. So I definitely want to know what it is that people out there are thinking and, and what is their concerns, because I don't want to dismiss anyone and I don't want to not see anyone. You know what I mean? So I appreciate listening to the different perspectives. And at the end of the day, we're going to do what's right by students, regardless of what the different perspectives, if not regardless, but I'm saying like, we're going to do what's right by students. That's number one and key. But I definitely, like to hear what people are thinking, because I know I heard some things last week that I thought, oh, gee, I didn't realize people were thinking that. And there were some things that I was like, no, that's definitely not what we're doing. But, it's always good to hear the different perspectives. So and have a dialogue with people. I know that some people actually said, wow, I have a better understanding of what DI is after speaking with you. I'm like, well, great. I'm glad we spoke then. I have other people who don't think that at all. And, it is a really difficult time because, people are getting information from all different places.
I think that it's a testament to you knowing your job and doing it well for you to say what you said just now, that you don't want to dismiss anyone because you're incorporating DEI into your job with all of the people that you have to talk to from all walks of life. So, I mean, that's a great example of DEI in practice. So Emma had a question and said, what would you say to people who think white people are being demonized by the school plans? And if the schools are trying to include all children, then.
What would I say for people who feel like they're being demonized?
Emma, do you want to rephrase that? I'm not really sure what you meant by that.
Do you mind if I just?
Yeah, just say it.
Yeah, just say it.
I was just saying, it seems confusing because as I was reading the plan and as I hear you speaking, it seems like you're trying to include all children, no matter, ability, skin color, sexuality, gender, income, all of that. However, a lot of people seem to think that majorities, white, cisgendered people are going to be demonized by this. But if you're trying to include everybody, that doesn't seem to be the goal. So how would you combat those concerns?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that's a really good question and point, because that is happening. I speak to a lot of people who feel that by focusing too much on inclusion, we're going to be excluding certain people, but that's not the goal. The goal is that I think some people have to understand that some of the practices and ways in which things have happened, I'm not saying it for sight, but I'm just saying, like, when you just kind of examine things, systems, there's always catered to a certain population. So it's good to just be intentional about, okay, let's look at who it is that we're serving and making sure that we see those folks feel included and feel seen and can participate in what we have to offer. I mean, I just have to just explain it to people over and over again. This is not about excluding anyone. This is about including people. There's a lot of students that I hear from that say, I go to school and I don't feel like I'm seen, that I have anyone to talk to. We don't want that. We need to create safe spaces for everyone who walks in our building. And that is not necessarily by, saying that, oh, all of a sudden now we're going to, we see these folks, so it's all about these folks. No, it's about everyone who's coming in our building. That's just the point. It's unfortunate when someone says that to me, because then I'm like, wow, that means we haven't done a really good job in, making sure that everyone who's walking in our building feels like they have a space here. So it's just always explaining to people, this is not about excluding anyone. We have to make more room for the people that are already in the room.
How are you navigating the rise against SEL alongside the calls for DEI not having a place in school?
Yeah, so, we hear that, and it's just a matter of we continue to just, move forward with our plan, showing people what it is, and basically how some of that was already happening, in terms of social emotional learning, and diversity, equity, inclusion, was happening in small pockets. Like, people were already incorporating that. Now we're just being more intentional about making sure that this is something, the direction that the county is going in, and, really educating people on what it is, because a lot of people just don't know. But, You know, a lot of students, they need support. You know, you're with the students 7 hours in a day. We have to make sure that, again, they feel safe and they feel supported, that they can talk to someone, that there is somebody in the building they can identify, that they can talk to and feel safe with. And obviously all the students need to feel included. So, I mean, some of this stuff goes hand in hand if you really want kids to be successful academically.
And I don't think that most parents really realize that taking SEL out of schools would be impossible. You cannot have 5 minutes in a school without social emotional learning coming into play. And that it would also mean that your only recourse would be to punish these children all of the time. They would
Right.
spend more time being suspended because you couldn't deal with whatever situation arose at school because you're not allowed to talk to them about specific things. And I think in the end that will fall flat, just like what we're facing here with the DEI situation. But we're definitely going to need to stay vigilant because there's a lot of people who are very angry with a lot of bad information. There's a lot of people on this call who are the people who are giving that misinformation to those parents, and they're continuing to try and say whatever they can to those parents to make sure that they stay engaged. So we need to make sure that we're vigilant as well. And Arpana mentioned that it's just really, really hard for people who haven't felt othered to understand being othered. And I understand that point of view as well. And I think one of the best things, Emma, just to kind of piggyback on your question, was to ask questions of those people. Not necessarily give them what you have to say or what you think about that, but asking questions to see where they're coming from will allow you to frame what your response is going to be and what will speak to them. And I think Eric had a question next. Go ahead, Eric.
I do have a question. I hope I'm able to make this compact enough. I grew up in an area in the tri-state that was very Jewish and very Italian. Jewish holidays, we had these holidays off because we had such a high Jewish population. As we all know, we have a rapidly growing Indian population, a South Asian population. And it just seems to me, it's pretty simple that all we're talking about is understanding, respecting, and teaching everybody about our community. Like we are getting things conflated with critical race theory and other things for political reasons. It just all seems pretty much like common sense.
And a lot of it is. Yeah. Go ahead.
Thank you for sharing that. You're so right. You know, it's interesting because I also grew up in a state that we used to have Jewish holidays off. I grew up in the Northeast and we would have Jewish holidays off. And it was just a way of life. But yeah, I mean, that's all we're doing is we just want to make sure that everyone is seen and heard here. And, you know, hopefully we're going to be doing some more educating. I think like I said, I've only been here since December, but there's a lot more things that we're going to be doing and rolling out, and hopefully to be able to provide the resources for our staff. And hopefully we can start to down the line, make more changes that can be that look more supportive for all of our students.
How would you respond to expressed concerns that social initiatives takes time away from academics? That was a big underlying theme of a meeting I attended last night, that we're getting away from.
So the thing is that it really doesn't, because the academics is still the priority, and that is the main thing that is being taught. So if you're in a math class, you're being taught math, you know, English class, etc. This is not taking away from academics at all. If anything, you know, there's a lot of research that show how children thrive by learning, engaging in conversations with people who are different than them. So, I mean, this is not taking away from academics in any shape, way, or form. We are in our DI plan, we're not even, in terms of the student engagement piece, a lot of the teaching that we're doing that's not happening with students. Like I said, the professional development is happening with the staff. So it really, nothing has changed for students in terms of, you know, that piece. It's not taken away from academics at all. I know I heard that, and that was, you know, was one of the things that I heard, and I thought, oh, gee, I didn't know people were thinking that, but it's not taken away from academics.
Will the new women's studies and Black studies courses be offered at every school? And if not, is that the goal at some point? Yeah,
that is the goal at some point. It's going to be rolled out in 2 different schools. The schools that it's going to be at is it's 2 different schools. I'm blanking right now, so I don't want to give you the name of the wrong schools. But the goal is for it to be offered at all of our schools. I should have had that written down. Sorry.
Oh, no, you're fine. And Arpana, just to clarify that it's a less of a social initiative and more giving accurate history lessons as far as the concerns about social initiatives.
You said, what about that? The social initiative and the.
Her understanding of it was just that she would, so I'm assuming she's just trying to clarify. It's less of a social initiative and more about giving accurate history lessons. That there's not so much of a social initiative aspect to it. And so in an example, last night, one of the things that was said at the meeting that I attended was that it's great to see all these young people speaking up at this Board of Education meeting, right after they railed against DEI bringing activism into students' lives. So I'm not sure that they even hear what they're saying, because the reason why these students are, inspired is because they saw the events over the last year and they saw what the power of using their voices could do.
Right, that's exactly, you're right. You're right. So so the question is, just so I understand it, is it more about academics and not social? I guess I'm not understanding. Are people wanting to know if we're trying to create students that are going to be activists? I just want to understand.
That is how the other side is framing it. So that's part of the misinformation piece that that's the attempt, is that everyone be an activist. But even in what we do and what I do, I say that not everyone can be an activist, because we'd all be holding signs. And
right, right.
Everybody has a role to play. And
yeah, I mean,
being an activist isn't everyone's.
No, I mean, I think people are called to be that. I mean, that's not, like I said, the DEI program, the diversity is already here. The equity and inclusion piece, that is something that we have to be held accountable to do. We have to deliver that as a school district. That's just the right thing for us to do. Now, if somebody ends up being an activist, if they feel that conviction, that's good for them. You know what I mean? Like that, not everyone's going to do that. But like I said, the diversity is here, and we're going to be held accountable to make sure that we are delivering an equitable education to our students, and that we're inclusive, because I want to make sure that all of our kids feel safe in the buildings that they enter.
And today marks a year since George Floyd was killed. And so I want to bring up the brain pop that I viewed last night at the meeting that I attended. The brain pop that I viewed was about George Floyd. I thought it was fantastic. It told the story. It just basically said what happened. It said at the end that it sparked a lot of nationwide, not even nationwide, worldwide protests. And that people started to affect change, and that most of the protests were peaceful. Some of them were not. The media kind of played up the ones that were not. So that was, kind of case and end point of how that video went. And then the leader of this meeting said that he believes that that's propaganda. So this is kind of what we're facing. So as far as this is just because you didn't like the version of the events or what happened, or you disagree with the verdict, doesn't make it propaganda. So would you say that the best thing that we can do that is just to continue to combat that with education? Because there are going to be people who continue to call this propaganda when they don't know the meaning of the word.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to refute facts. I mean, facts are just facts. And a lot of this stuff we've been, because of the way media has been working with people recording everything, people are seeing this in live time, because of like the social media, platforms. So a lot of this is, I mean, it's not propaganda, it's just factual things that have happened. So, I mean, we just have to call it for what it is, facts.
I agree. Does anyone else have any other questions? It looks like Jackson might have a question.
So I've been going through it's on YouTube, the meeting from the other week, and I've been going through it and trying to make notes on some of the falsehoods they said. They brought up that there was a tweet called Forsyth Plan with like the 10 books from the school there. I recommended reading with a bunch of, I would say, they said, these are critical race theory books that were suggested for summer reading. I could not find that anywhere online or anywhere else. I feel like that's just a complete falsehood, and it was how the meeting started.
Yeah, so that actually, I know exactly what they were referring to. That was not part of the Forsyth County account. The Forsyth County School of Education did not tweet that. That was a personal tweet from someone from their account. And then all they were doing was saying what it is that they were reading, and they had shared it with people. And so that was screenshot and shared with everyone, and then made it seem like Forsyth County Schools was recommending these readings to teachers. But I mean, I think it's great that people are reading about this topic to learn and grow. I don't see anything wrong with that, but some people, I guess, think that's wrong. But yeah, like I'm so glad you brought that up because that is misinformation because that wasn't part of Forsyth County Schools account. So that you're right about that.
Yeah, that is one thing on the other side is continuing to say, oh, well, they deleted this when they got caught, and we have no idea what they're even suggesting, honestly.
Yeah, yeah.
Does anybody else have any questions? Just trying to make sure I got everybody. All right, Daniel. Well, thank you so much for joining us. It was so nice to meet you. I'm really glad
Likewise.
that you came and that we were finally able to get our schedules matched up. I do expect to see you later, so I hope that you'll join us at another time to do a follow-up. Please let us know if there's anything that the community can do to support the work that you're doing in Forsyth County Schools. And know that for every person who gives you a call and lets you know that they don't support you, there's a lot of people who exist who do. So just to kind of keep pushing on. And just let us know what we can do.
All right. Well, thank you all.
Yeah, thank you so much. You're welcome to join, to keep up with us for the rest of the meeting, or you can drop off if you want to just get off Zoom. I don't blame you. So,
okay, thanks.
Thank you. Okay, so the next thing that we were going to talk about was the Forsyth County Board meeting, the school board meeting that will be on June 15th. And I'm not going to discuss any plans from there because we are not alone. And we have plenty of other options for us to communicate so that we can talk about our organizing for that. Just know that we will be there. We will be youth-led. We'll follow the youth on this. So I will let you all know in different avenues how to get in touch, how we'll coordinate that moving forward. And just expect it to be on our calendar until it's no longer on the opposition's calendar to fight DEI, because this is something that's important. So it needs to be on our radar. And we need to be as vigilant as they are. So I think we definitely have proved our tenacity in the county, and this gives us another opportunity to do that and to be with each other working towards a good cause. So there's nothing wrong with that. I would like to talk about office space. So Christine, I think you had something on that.
Yes, at our board meeting on Thursday, we talked about how we would really like to find some office and meeting space that we could call our own, so that we don't have to be looking for meeting space for every meeting. Right now we're using, because we're going to transition into in-person meetings, we're hoping to start using the Post Road Library next month, and then we'll see where we go from there. But it takes money, takes funds, and so we're appealing to our members and the community to help us in any way you can, especially with funding, donations, and what we would really like to have is recurring donations, because we'd like to be able to count on monthly donations, whatever you can afford. It may not seem like a lot to you, but when your monthly donation is added, combined with everybody else's monthly donation, that makes a rent payment for us. So what we're envisioning is something that could be, a community center, really, that could be not only used for our meetings, but we could be using it for our local candidates next year who are going to need a space for their campaign kickoffs and postcard writing parties and sign distributions, and also like our community groups like Connect the Dots, if they want to do that. Before the virus, we were doing potlucks to benefit different charities. We could do that in our meeting space. So if we can get together and do this as a group, as a community, we need a space that's probably big enough for, I don't know, what do you think, Eric? Probably 80 to 90 people with parking, and then a small office space. So, and if anybody knows of anything that would be suitable, let us know, or an agent that would know of, that would be willing to work with us, let us know. So, and you can donate through the website. It's quick and easy to do. You know, if you've already donated to any Democratic candidates, you already have an Act Blue account, so it's already set up. Okay.
All right. Does anybody have any business for the floor? Sorry, my dog.
Melissa, I would just say to look out for signups for the July 4th event at the fairgrounds. That will be coming soon.
Okay, and do we need to purchase candy, or do we need to start doing that or anything?
Yeah, I mean, we'll ask for it first and see what we get. Hopefully, if you guys see some cheap candy, grab it, and we'll be collecting that soon for the July 4th.
I'm trying to mute based on my dog. Are we doing but go ahead, Carol.
Just remember, it's on the 3rd, not on the 4th.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering. Are we doing both? Are we doing both the parade and the?
The event that we paid for space at is only on the 3rd.
Okay,
Is only
all
what,
right.
Carol? What do you say? I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
I'm sorry.
Can you repeat what you said?
The event that we paid for space at the fairgrounds is on the 3rd. I think they're gonna do everything and the fireworks and everything on the 3rd.
Okay.
Okay, good to know. So that's the next step is we'll let you know what we're doing with June 15th. Just plan, go ahead and put it on your calendar to be there. We're gonna be there early for sure. And I will let you know through all of our other communication strategies on how to, you know, what the plan is on that and what our coordination will look like. Dan had a good question. It's gonna be hard candy that you're gonna wanna pick up. It's gonna be super hot. We wanna make sure it doesn't melt. And we don't wanna be the only people who run out of candy. So make sure that we have plenty of candy to give all the kids. We do not don't like the looks.
Run out of candy. Don't let us run out of candy.
Don't let us run out of candy. We're not the cool kids if we run out of candy. So help us not run out of candy. That's the big next push. So I don't think that we have any business from the floor. So if it's okay with you guys, this I will go ahead and adjourn unless somebody has anything.
Nope.
Thank you all for joining us tonight. You guys all have a great evening.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.